Cybersecurity and cyber threats are among the biggest risks that companies across the world face today. And it is a big priority for the Indian government as well, considering the number of cyber frauds in the financial sector that we've seen and the number of cyber frauds affecting job seekers going to different countries in Southeast Asia, people falling prey to financial scams here in India as well. And then there is a big threat to national security as well. To speak about this all, today we're joined by Jay Chaudhary, the Chairman, CEO and founder of Zscaler, a global cybersecurity firm. Mr. Chaudhary, thank you very much for joining us. You've just returned from India after a successful visit. You met the Prime Minister. What's your outlook on India? And what would you like Zscaler to do in India in terms of growth, expansion plans and investments in the year 2025 and forward?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. India in the past 10 to 20 years has done amazing well in terms of growth. You know, when I went to the US in early 80s, people used to say, where is India? Now everyone knows India. India has come on the world stage. Digital India is a big part of the story. Everything is getting powered by cloud, mobility, the whole digitization, which our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, got started with. And it's wonderful to see the Aadhaar card system, the UPI payment systems are amazing technology that even the West will like to see because India has gotten ahead of most of the world. But the more digitized India gets, the bigger the cyber risk. The bad guys go where the action is. They want to get a piece of action without working hard. That's where companies like Zscaler come in. I started Zscaler in 2008 with the notion that if world goes online, if everything becomes mobile, security will be a big issue. Today, Zscaler is protecting 45% of Fortune 500 company. And we have invested a lot in India in terms of resources, people, and infrastructure. And we are also serving some of the biggest and the largest companies in India that are based in India.
Right. If we were to ask you about some of the biggest threats that Indian firms or companies across the world face, what would those be?
You need to start with the motives. What do bad guys want? Okay, the two things. One, they want money. That's where ransomware attacks come in. And for those attacks, they go after some of the large companies. The second motive is generally national, call it national security or call it national intellectual property or national secrets type of stuff. That's where they go after some of the critical infrastructure because that becomes something for them to use in case there's a war, or they want to steal intellectual property. So some of these countries want to steal, say, jet engine design, so they can build the jet engines and like. Those are the motivations. So for financial companies, for example, ransomware is the biggest threat. For India as a country, its critical infrastructure is a big threat. Those are the two main buckets.
Right. And when you speak about these national security threats, where do you see some of the biggest threats or attempts to attack the cybersecurity infrastructure or the infrastructure of some of the big listed companies in India or critical infrastructure at the government level? Where do you see a bulk of these threats originating from?
So it's typical countries, okay? For the Western world or Western aligned countries, where I would say United States, India, Singapore, Australia, or the European countries, they kind of fall in one bucket. Then you got East European countries or China or North Korea. These are the countries where they are looking for doing two things. One, stealing intellectual property because they want to be able to build things they don't have technology access for, so they could be independent by stealing technology. Number two, they want to get into critical infrastructure because attack on critical infrastructure could be used as a weapon. In the US, for example, you saw a couple of years ago attack on Colonial Pipeline. They distributed gas to consumers 2 to 3 million people were out of gas because of a ransomware attack. It became a big news in the country when it kind of affects so many people. Then recently you have been reading where Chinese are sitting in Verizon and AT&T of the world. These are telco infrastructure, because once you get in there, you could potentially listen to all communication, and you could potentially disrupt those companies so that the country's citizen can talk to each other. So those are the kind of things we need to worry about. In India too, we have a critical infrastructure. This is our power grids. This is our transportation system. This is our logistics system. That's on one side. Then the other side, we have to worry about our national security, our defense organizations too. Because if bad guys can get access to those systems, they can cause havoc. I'm sure a lot of our viewers read about the Pages attack that happened in the Middle East. Think of it. The war in Lebanon was over as soon as those essentially pages got compromised and they were blown up. That's the kind of situation we have to worry about and be ready for.
Right. You mentioned that there have been examples of countries wanting to steal jet engine technology. Have you come across any such threats or attempts in India or anywhere in the world by actors or non-state actors?
So when state actors want to steal that kind of technologies, they never want to tell you that they stole it, okay? They would rather stay under the radar. There are many examples. There have been indications or speculations. I know, for example, during COVID time, Zscaler was working with a number of pharmaceutical companies where some of these Chinese spies tried to get into those companies to steal the formula for COVID vaccine type of stuff. So a lot of that effort is going on all the time. We have to be careful. I think India needs to do a lot more for its cyber protection than it's being done. That's why personally, I would like to really get more engaged in India, because it's also, in my mind, it's not just a business, it's a mission. It's giving back to the country as well. So today we are serving some of the largest banks, some of the largest conglomerates in India, and we have done some early stage work with some of the Indian government agencies. That's a start. I'm hoping that we accelerate to help India become secure from digital point of view.
Right. Now, in terms of expanding your operations, do you want to hire more in India? Is there a certain growth that you're aspiring for till 2030?
So the company has grown significantly. Today, we are over $2.5 billion in annual recurring revenue. If you look at the growth of the company in the past 5 or so years, our compounded annual growth has been around 50% or higher than that. In terms of number of employees, we are about 7,500 employees globally, and somewhere in the high 30%, close to 40% of our employees are in India. And as the company grows, obviously we're expanding our employees all around, but the biggest percentage of a single country are in India. We got software development operations, we got customer support operations, customer success, cloud operations, or even our finance team. They are in India. So as the company grows, we expect the headcount in India to grow as well. But that's not only that. India is also a good market for us. I'm very surprised how fast Indian market is growing from sales point of view as compared to what it was 5 or 10 years ago.
Right. What I would also like to ask you, when you said that India needs to do much more on cybersecurity, where would we be right now compared to some of the top markets in the world? And how vulnerable is India right now from a critical infrastructure point of view and from a private sector point of view?
So if you look at the markets I know I work with, when it comes to private sector, US and Europe have done pretty good. Okay. Indian private sector is coming along pretty fast, especially the high end of the Indian private sector. When it comes to public sector, US was fairly behind, but for the last 4 years, when Biden administration focused on what they call zero trust security, lots and lots of progress has been made. Europe has made a lot of progress. I think India needs to step up its cybersecurity the way they stepped up their digital program or digitization. We are somewhat behind. But infrastructure security is not that simple. Some of these systems, they're power grids, they're outdated. You can't change them overnight. The transportation systems alike. But the sooner we start, the better we get out there. And that's what we like to do, working with the government as well as some of the large system integrators in India.
Right. A lot of changes happening in the United States. How do you expect India-US ties to move ahead under Donald Trump?
Look, for the last several years, you have been seeing India and US getting aligned, okay, irrespective of the administration. So as Trump administration comes, I think strategically the two countries are aligned, and they keep on getting aligned because we have the same set of enemies to worry about.
Right. Now, in terms of the asks, Donald Trump has given enough feelers that he would like to impose reciprocal taxes on India, high tariffs on India, even though we feel that the bigger target of Donald Trump's tariff regime would be China. How do you think he will respond to the trade partnership with India?
Look, this is perhaps anybody's guess, okay? There have been lots of statements made about tariffs for a range of countries. I think at the end of the day, administration will balance strategic alignment and tariffs. Some of that stuff, it ends up being sometimes the negotiation tactics and whatnot. So I'm not sure where things will land, but I think from strategic long-term point of view, the two countries are aligned and they will stay aligned.
Right. Thank you so much.
They need each other.
They need each other. Thank you so much, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us on the program, giving us your view on US-India relations and the cybersecurity threats that India faces right now and where all we need to work harder in the days to come. Thanks once again for being with CNBC TV18.
Thank you.